everyone, it's Anja from Cooking with Plants and welcome to my channel. So today I want to share with you my top 10 ways and ingredients to get really deep, rich flavour into your dishes, into plant-based dishes without the use of meat. So a lot of people, when they transition to a plant-based lifestyle or a vegan diet, they just don't know how to add flavour to their dishes. And the thing is, it's actually a myth that it's the meat giving flavour, because if you think about it, if you eat meat, you add flavour with condiments. Why does mustard and barbecue sauce and ketchup and all those things, why do they all exist? Because they add flavour to meat, or marinades, etc. And you can do the same thing with plant-based ingredients as well. But more so than that, it's actually the fat in meat that carries flavour. So it coats your tongue and then it helps the flavours to actually stay in your mouth and for your taste buds to taste those flavours. So if you can mimic that in a plant-based way, in a healthy way, then why not give that a try? So my first tip is to add a plant-based fat. And I'm not talking oils here, so if you have followed my channel for a while, you know I don't add any added oils to my cooking. It is not healthy for heart health, and that's why I initially went plant-based, because I was 25 kilos heavier than I am now, and I had the start of a bulging aorta. So I transitioned to a plant-based lifestyle. I've been doing this since 2012. My blood tests are always amazing. My cholesterol is low, and I feel amazing. So that a lot of that is to do with cutting out oils, processed foods, and of course transitioning to a whole food plant-based diet. So my number one tip is add healthy plant-based fats, so no oils. So what do you add to your dish that is healthy and plant-based and is a fat that can act as a flavor carrier? So think of things like tahini and maybe even some chia seeds. You could mix some chia seeds with some water, let it gel up, and then use that in your cooking as a flavor carrier. You could also add your nut butters, so peanut butter, you've got almond butter, macadamia nut butter, cashew nut butter, or even plant-based milks. So think of soy milk or almond milk, oat milk, all those types of things are going to coat your mouth and then act as a flavor carrier. So you could also add your fats on top of the meal at the end of your cooking. So if you didn't want to include it in your cooking and in your dish, then add the fat at the end. So you might add something like avocado on top. Or again, you might make a tahini-based sauce and drizzle some of that on top. And you don't need much. It's just, like I said, just to carry that flavor and to coat your tongue. So that is tip number one, add a plant-based fat. Tip number two is herbs and spices, or herbs and spices for my American friends. And this is just one of my favorite things of all time. Anything I make, I add herbs or spices or both. And they just pack such a flavor punch. And again, they have nutrition. They add extra nutrition into your meals without even really knowing it, and they make it taste amazing. So things like smoked paprika, oh, it's so delicious. It adds smokiness and a real depth of flavor to your food. Then even things like nutritional yeast, which I know is not a herb or a spice, but it is something that can actually add a real umami flavor, a savory flavor to your dishes. So add Italian mixed herbs, add your smoked paprika, even things like mixing dried sage with nutritional yeast flakes. It adds like a chicken broth type of flavor. So think of a traditional stuffing, like a chicken stuffing that you would have, and the flavor of that, if you combine sage and nutritional yeast flakes, it will give that flavor. So just experiment, try all those amazing different herbs and spices that are available to you, and then experiment with whatever you're making, because it will add flavor and punch if you find your favorite combinations. Cumin seeds are amazing, dried coriander, all those types of things are just phenomenal. So use them and put them in your dishes. So my third tip today is to add that umami flavor that I mentioned previously, and that is the savory flavor that goes into dishes, the savory element. So things like I was saying, nutritional yeast flakes, but my favorite also is miso paste. So miso paste, while it's high in sodium, it has been found that the sodium is processed in a different way, and most likely because it's linked to the fermentation process of making miso paste. So use some miso paste to add some flavor, add some punch, and add that depth of flavor, that umami flavor that you need to make your dishes taste amazing. Number 4 is another absolute favorite of mine, and that is to use mushrooms. And I love using a variety of mushrooms, whether they're small, large, medium, in between, Asian, Italian, whatever type of mushrooms I can find, I will use them because each mushroom has its own flavor profile. And even if they're dried, I love soaking the mushrooms and then getting the liquid from that and saving that liquid, using it as a broth. Or if I'm cooking some mushrooms up, they naturally release a lot of liquid and juices. So even if you're not using those juices in a particular dish that you're making, why not store those juices for later and then create a delicious broth and sauce or whatever you're making? It adds real flavor. It is absolutely amazing, and you can just store it in a jar, keep that liquid for up to about 5 days in the fridge, or you could put it in the freezer. It does lose a little bit of flavor when it's frozen, but it's great to have on hand and it adds amazing flavor. You can even cook up your mushrooms and then blend it up with a little bit of the liquid that's come out. And just blend it up and then use that in your dishes. It just adds amazing flavor. And there's also a variety of mushroom seasonings and powders online as well. So if you wanted to research those and find one that you absolutely love, then have a look through and just add mushrooms where you can. Absolutely delicious. So tip number 5 is to add onions, garlic and celery. These are a fantastic base for soups and stews and gravies and curries. Whatever you're making, they add amazing flavor. Especially celery is so good for adding a saltiness, so you don't need to add extra salt. You'll train your taste buds to get used to not eating any salt if you start to cut it out. So use less, use more of those savory type of vegetables that are going to give amazing natural flavor. Even tomatoes, to some extent, they can add sweetness and saltiness at times. So combine those types of things. Use your vegetables, especially pungent vegetables like onions and garlic. They just add amazing flavor. And if you don't like to have the raw onion and garlic in your cooking, or you just want to make a quick sauce and add some extra flavor, then add in the dried versions. Get some garlic granules, get some onion flakes, put those in. You could even soak them and again use that liquid separately as well. So just start to think creatively with what flavors you can combine and just add that flavor punch to your dishes. So number 6 is condiments. So like I mentioned right at the start of this video, condiments flavor up traditional meat dishes. So use condiments to flavor up your plant-based dishes as well. I love using things like mustard. Being German, we put mustard on almost everything. So I love having boiled potatoes with mustard. And I also use mustard in my dressings, in my sauces, in gravies. Wherever I need a little bit more depth of flavor, mustard is amazing. And then you have things like barbecue sauce and ketchup and chili sauce. You have sweet chili, there's hot chili, there's things like Tabasco or sriracha sauce. These are absolutely amazing, and especially chili. By adding chili flakes, you're going to really add a kick to your meal. It'll make it more pungent, more yum. And also things like chili, they engage different parts of your palate to trick your brain into thinking that you're actually having something a little bit more salty. So even if your dish hasn't got that extra saltiness, by having chili and things like lemon juice, etc., you're engaging different parts of your palate that are going to then be tricked into thinking that it is much more savory and salty than what the dish actually is. So keep that in mind and add those chilies if you like chili. Number 7 is to add a tasty broth. So whether it's a vegetable broth that you've made yourself, a vegetable broth that you've bought from the store, or even just using a vegetable broth powder that you mix up, The Miso brand has some great plant-based versions of traditional beef stock powder and chicken stock powder. So if you're just transitioning to a plant-based diet and you're not familiar with this lifestyle and you're struggling to get that flavor in, that will be a good transition ingredient for you to use. I don't promote it as a health product or a whole food product, but it is something that can help you to transition from that traditional way of eating if you're just coming to a plant-based way of living and incorporating this into your lifestyle and really needing that flavor. So check those out and then start to use more and more of the other ingredients as your taste buds adapt to this way of eating and you start to transition into more of the whole foods. And also, while we're talking broth, why not add some red wine or white wine? They're amazing when you're making gravies or different sauces. They can add another layer of flavor, that depth of flavor, and the alcohol will cook off. So just cook it for a little while, let that alcohol cook off, and it'll just add that nice deep flavor. So you could make some bean bourguignon, those type of things. So add the flavor in there by using those types of things. If you do cook with wine with your traditional recipes, then transition over and use that in your plant-based cooking as well. Number 8 is liquid smoke, and as the name suggests, it's liquid and it tastes like smoke. So this is great for adding a smoky flavor to soups and gravies, and it's great for making mock versions of things like bacon because it does have that real depth of flavor and that smokiness that a traditional bacon would have if it was smoked in a smokehouse, for example. So if you don't have a smokehouse and you're not going to smoke your tofu, etc., or you don't have a smoke making machine that's going to infuse smoke into your dishes, then it's great to have liquid smoke on hand, and you don't need much at all to flavor a whole pot. You're looking at about maybe a teaspoon or so for a whole pot of food. So give that a try. It adds delicious smokiness and absolute great savory flavor. Number 9 is olives. So I love to add whole olives or chopped up olives instead of using olive oil, which is just empty calories and doesn't have any nutrition. Your olives are going to have the nutrition, the fiber, it's the whole food. So use some olives to flavor up your dishes, maybe sprinkle them over the top of your dishes, and they do add a delicious flavor punch to certain meals, especially Italian and Mediterranean type of meals. So give that a try, whether it's green or black, totally up to you which types of olives that you like, but do be aware of the salt content and try not to have too many because you don't want to be raising your sodium levels too high. So keep that in mind and use them in moderation and just to add some extra flavor to your meals. And number 10 today is sun-dried tomatoes. So I like to get the ones that are not packed in oil, they're just dried tomatoes. And conveniently, I will just buy them in a packet from the store. But if you have time or if you have a dehydrator, you could make them yourself, or place them in a low temperature oven and dry them yourself, or even out in the sunshine. If you're living somewhere where it's sunny at the moment, put them on a tray and put them outside to dry and make your own. They're absolutely delicious. Sun-dried tomatoes are absolutely amazing if you cover them with water, rehydrate them, and then you can use them in a dish, or just throw them into a dish that has some liquid in there and they'll rehydrate automatically and then release those delicious flavors into your meal. So I hope that you enjoyed those 10 delicious flavor ingredients, flavor punching ingredients, and give them a try. And why not join me over in my Facebook group and let me know what you make and how you use these ingredients in your dishes, and share some recipes with us. We all hop on there and we share different photos and ingredients and ideas, and I would love to see you there as well. If you're stuck for a meal plan and you don't know where to start with a plant-based diet, or you just want to vary up your diet a little bit, I've also got a 7-day meal plan down below for you. It's totally free. You can download it, give it a try for yourself, and I hope that you enjoy these tips, these ingredients, and that it really starts to flavor up your cooking from here on in. See you for the next recipe. Bye for now.